in the quaint suburban neighborhood of Oakwood Crescent, where white picket fences lined the streets and meticulously tended gardens bloomed in vibrant colors, life had a way of flowing in a gentle, predictable rhythm. For most residents, the days blended seamlessly into one another, a comfortable cadence of routine and familiarity. However, beneath this serene surface, some stories were woven in silence, hidden in the folds of secrecy and desire. Yet, beneath the veneer of a perfect suburban life, Jack felt an emptiness that he couldn't quite define, a longing for something more, something different. The Mason family lived next door. Richard Mason, a charismatic lawyer with a busy schedule, and his wife, Lily, an ethereal woman with a soft voice and an artist's soul. She often spent her days painting in the sunroom that overlooked their lush garden. Lily was a vision of grace and elegance, with a quiet sadness that seemed to linger behind her warm, inviting smile. Jack and Emily had a cordial relationship with the Masons. They exchanged pleasantries during neighborhood gatherings, shared the occasional barbecue, and waved at each other from their driveways. Yet, it was during one of these innocuous interactions that Jack first felt the subtle pull of an inexplicable connection with Lily. It wasn't just her beauty that drew him in, it was the way she carried herself, a blend of poise and a mysterious vulnerability that seemed to resonate with the restless part of him. The affair began innocuously, as such things often do. It started with fleeting glances, shared over the garden fence, and small, intimate conversations that seemed to linger long after they had ended. Jack found excuses to be in the garden more often, tending to imaginary tasks, just to catch a glimpse of Lily or to exchange a few words with her. It was in these stolen moments that they began to discover a shared world of unspoken feelings and unfulfilled desires. One particularly warm evening, when the summer air was thick with the scent of jasmine, Jack found himself at home alone. Emily was away visiting her parents, and the house felt eerily quiet. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the neighborhood, Jack noticed Lily in her garden, her figure bathed in the soft, fading light. He felt an irresistible urge to speak with her, to be near her. With a casual excuse, Jack walked over to the Mason's garden, pretending to admire the flowers. Lily looked up from her easel, where she had been painting, and smiled, a smile that reached her eyes and warmed him in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. "Beautiful evening," Jack said, his voice betraying a nervous edge. "It is," Lily replied, setting down her paintbrush. "Sometimes it feels like time stands still on nights like these." There was a pause, a charged silence filled with the weight of unspoken words. Jack took a breath, feeling the thrum of his own heartbeat. "Lily, I've been wanting to tell you. I think your paintings are extraordinary. There's something so raw and real about them." Lily looked at him, her eyes softening. "Thank you, Jack. That means a lot. Sometimes I feel like my paintings are the only way I can truly express what's inside." They stood there, the space between them charged with a strange, electric tension. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring them together in that moment, to bridge the gap between their solitary worlds. And then, without fully understanding how it happened, Jack found himself standing closer to Lily, close enough to see the delicate lines around her eyes and the soft curve of her lips. "There's something about you, Lily," Jack said softly, his voice barely a whisper. "Something that draws me in. I can't explain it." Lily looked away, her expression troubled. "Jack, we shouldn't." But before she could finish, Jack reached out and gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing against her cheek. It was a tender, tentative gesture, filled with both uncertainty and an undeniable pull of attraction. For a moment, Lily hesitated, a conflict of emotions playing across her face. Then, as if a dam had broken, she leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. Their kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if testing the waters of an unfamiliar sea. But soon, it deepened, fueled by a hunger that had been simmering beneath the surface for too long. It was a kiss that spoke of longing, of desires unspoken, and dreams unfulfilled. In that moment, the world outside their little bubble ceased to exist. It was just them, lost in each other. After what felt like an eternity, they pulled apart, breathless and shaken. The reality of what they had done hung heavy in the air, a tangible weight that neither of them could ignore. "We can't," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "This isn't right." Jack nodded, feeling the sting of guilt and the cold rush of reality. "I know," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "but I can't help how I feel." They stood there in the twilight, the night settling around them like a cloak. The sound of crickets filled the silence, a reminder of the world beyond their secret moment. With a heavy heart, Jack turned and walked back to his house, each step feeling like a betrayal of everything he had ever known. Over the weeks that followed, Jack and Lily's affair continued in stolen moments and hushed conversations. They met in secret, always careful to avoid suspicion. There were whispered words and stolen kisses, fleeting touches that left them both yearning for more. Yet, amid the passion and excitement, there was also a constant undercurrent of guilt and fear. Fear of being caught, of hurting their spouses, of destroying the fragile lives they had built. Their affair was a complex dance of emotions, a mixture of passion and pain, joy and sorrow. It was as if they were living in a world of shadows, a world where the lines between right and wrong were blurred. And yet, despite the risks and the constant fear, they couldn't bring themselves to stop. It was as if they were drawn to each other by an invisible force, something stronger than reason or morality. As the summer turned to fall, the leaves in Oakwood Crescent began to change, their vibrant colors mirroring the shifting emotions in Jack and Lily's hearts. The air grew cooler and the days shorter, casting long shadows across the neatly manicured lawns. The affair continued, a secret hidden beneath the surface of their everyday lives. But as the days grew colder, so did the reality of their situation. The thrill of their clandestine meetings was slowly overshadowed by the growing weight of their guilt. Jack found himself increasingly distracted, unable to focus on his work or his marriage. Emily noticed his distance, her concern growing with each passing day. And Richard, busy as he was, began to sense something amiss in Lily's behavior. The inevitable confrontation came one crisp autumn evening. Jack and Lily had met in a secluded spot near the edge of the neighborhood, a small abandoned park that had become their sanctuary. As they sat on a weathered bench, the tension between them was palpable. "We can't keep doing this," Lily said, her voice tinged with sadness. "It's not fair to anyone, especially not to Richard and Emily." Jack nodded, his heart heavy. He knew she was right, but the thought of ending their affair felt like a knife to the chest. "I know," he said quietly, "but what are we supposed to do? I can't just turn off my feelings for you." Lily looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of longing and sorrow. "I don't know," she whispered, "but we can't keep living a lie." As they sat there, the wind rustling the fallen leaves around them, the weight of their situation pressed down on them both. They knew that they were at a crossroads, and that whatever decision they made would have far-reaching consequences. In the end, it was Lily who broke the silence. "We need to stop," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "We need to end this before it destroys everything." Jack felt a lump form in his throat. He wanted to argue, to beg her to reconsider, but he knew she was right. With a heavy heart, he nodded. "Okay," he said, his voice barely audible. "We'll end it." The next few days were a blur of emotions for Jack. He felt a deep sense of loss, as if a part of him had been ripped away. He threw himself into his work, trying to distract himself from the ache in his chest. Emily noticed his turmoil and tried to comfort him, but Jack couldn't bring himself to confide in her. The guilt was too overwhelming. As the weeks passed, the distance between Jack and Lily grew. They stopped their secret meetings and avoided each other as much as possible. It was painful, but they both knew it was necessary. Jack focused on rebuilding his marriage with Emily, trying to find the spark that had once made them happy. Lily, too, turned her attention back to her family, pouring her emotions into her art. Slowly, life in Oakwood Crescent returned to its quiet, predictable rhythm. The affair became a distant memory, a shadow that lingered in the corners of Jack's mind. He and Lily remained cordial neighbors, their interactions polite but distant. The passion and intensity of their affair had faded, leaving only a lingering sadness and a deep sense of what might have been. In the end, Jack knew that their affair had been a mistake, a dangerous dalliance that had threatened to unravel their lives. But he also knew that it had been a profound experience, one that had forced him to confront the emptiness in his life and the choices he had made. It had been a journey through the shadows, a journey that had taught him the complexities of love and desire, and the consequences of giving in to temptation. As the seasons changed and the years passed, Jack and Lily both moved on with their lives. They never spoke of the affair again, each carrying the memory of it in their own way. It remained a secret, a whisper of shadows in the quiet streets of Oakwood Crescent, a story that would never be told. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, please like, leave a comment, subscribe, and share for more epic echoes from the writer's desk.